My name is Ruth Garcia. I joined Skyscanner 5 months ago as a data scientist for the Mother Ad squad that part is in Barcelona and part is in London. And today I'm going to talk about part of my experience of analyzing ads on Skyscanner and our future plan. So a very well-known report on the ads in the internet shows like a steady increase on the revenues coming from ads from 2006 to 2015, actually 17%, and that shows not to be different for 2016. And the increase is a little bit more pronounced after 2010. That is when users started using their mobiles for their daily tasks. And it's also not different for Skyscanner. Actually, looking at some data on some days ago, on April, we found that around 40% of our ads are loaded in mobiles without counting the app. So it's only natural to think then that Skyscanner also aims to increase their revenues from ads. And actually, we want to double it by 2019. The question now is how we can have the balance between increasing our revenue without losing the engagement of users and the trust of users. And for that, there has been already a lot of research saying that if we do it wrong, actually in the long term, if we don't put the users first, in the long term, the consequences can be terrible. So it's exactly that data science on ads at Skyscanner recently started to look at ways that we can measure the experience of users that go beyond only click-through rate. That is the clicks over the impression, the number of impressions of ads. Making sure that we understand what is happening so that we can take better actions in how we present ads, and also at the same time how we give feedback to our partners. But where we are at the moment, we are right here, beginning. We're trying to shift our mentality of only looking at conversions and click-through rates and trying to follow what I call the advertising quality science path, that is looking at new metrics that would tell us more about user engagement with ads, collecting new features about, granulated features about the details of the ads that not only consider images and text, but also features on the partner side, so that we can use this to build machine learning models, validate them, and bring them to production. So it's a long path ahead. Let's look at one example, at the native ads at Skyscanner. So the native ads, we have some native ads at the Skyscanner. Some of them are here, one in the home page, another one in the fly day view. The native ad tries to present ads within the context of the page, of the experience of the user. So here are like embed in these other two recommendations, and here this ad is embed with other results of the Skyscanner. We wanted, one of the first questions that we wanted to answer was to see whether specifically the native ad on the fly day view impact the number of times that users click on the results, on our results, not on the ad. We found that actually a smaller percentage of users will click on our results when they see ads. However, when we look at the percentage of users that were actually booking, not only clicking, we found that the percentage did not increase. In fact, there is a little bit more of percentage of users booking when they see ads. With the added value that we found 2% of users clicking on the ad. So that was a little bit of good news. But when we saw the likelihood of users clicking on ads again after they have clicked once, we found that it was very unlikely that they will click again. And this is based on a month sample only, of course. So we wanted to see a little bit more and understand a little bit more of what was happening. And we looked at how we were presenting ads, native ads, so in this case. And we found that there are two cases. One case is when we use the price, that actually look like one of the results of Skyscanner, and when we don't present prices. And this is because sometimes we cannot control how the IP works with a partner, and that's why there's not a price. little bit expected, but also a little surprising, we found that the click-through rate, the likelihood of users clicking on the ad, it was much higher when there was no price on the native ad. And this was held true for different markets, although with different proportions. And when we saw the case of showing prices, and how the difference between the price on the ad versus the cheapest available price, we saw that the difference mattered in how users will click on the ad. And it, of course, makes sense in cases like this when the ad shows a price that is disproportional to the cheapest price. So the next question is, okay, we have to set a threshold and come up with some sort of understanding of when and how to show ads. But that is not possible if we only count with metrics like CTR. We need some other type of metrics that tell us more about user engagement. And that is what we are working on right now. We are trying to come up with new metrics that tell us more about users. For example, we want to add a hide button on the ads and ask users why they choose to hide the button so we can have feedback from the experience of users. Also, we want to start measuring more accurately the dwell time, that is the time that users spend on a partner site, so that we can distinguish when a click is real and when it's accidental, and when users had a good post-click experience. And also know about the bookings that are derived from ads, not only about our results. That would allow us actually to come up with new ways of measuring, also collecting new features on the ad, so that we can build models, machine learning models, that will help us to rank our ads and show them in a proper time. And luckily, there has been already a lot of research on these three phases, on the pre-click, and the click, and in the post-click experience. Specifically, it goes using models like logistic regressions, using the help of crowdsourcing to identify features. And recently, in last year, in DAP conference, it was proposed to use a random survival forest method for ranking ads on the aiming to have a better post-click experience. So there are a lot of opportunities on that. Of course, after doing that, those kind of models and studying them, we need to validate them. Using experiments and tuning our models, and of course, continuously learning from our experiences. So what are the takeaway messages from data science on ads in Skyscanner? We are just beginning, and we are trying to come up with new metrics that allow us to understand better users. Metrics that are not only based on click-through rate, but also dwell time, feedback from hide buttons, and bookings derived from ads. We want to collect features that are not only based on clicks, but also in text, in images on the partner site. Use machine learning models and test them. So, yeah, so that's the idea. Thanks.